Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on Toned In Entertainment, where we love pop culture. Today, it's time for another comic book review. Now, for those of you who are regulars here to the channel, you guys know that when I do my comic book reviews, the majority of the time, I have the physical copy with me. But when I went to my comic book store to pick up this particular issue, well, they ended up getting shorted and they're not sure when they were gonna get a second printing or even if they were gonna get a second printing in. So I decided to buy the digital copy instead off of Comixology. Now, was this comic worth the wait, or should they go back in time and rethink it? Well, let's get on with my comic book review of the Transformers Back to the Future comic book crossover, issue number 3. Issue number 3 takes place in a Decepticon-occupied Earth in the year 2015, a place where the Constructicons aren't very well pleased with Biff's work. Hook and MixMaster will bicker back and forth as to who is responsible for their fallen comrade, Scrapper. Could it be the Autobots, even though they are believed to have been finished off? Or could it be the work of the humans? Now, Biff will try to reassure them that it could not be a human because there's no way they could construct a device powerful enough to bring down a Constructicon. Now, it appears that these Constructicons have more than just trust issues with one another, but instead of letting out their aggression on one another for too long, they decide they will take it out on Biff and scrap him so they can make an example out of him before they feel the wrath of Megatron. As Bone Crusher is assigned to do what he does best, Biff makes a dash for it, and just as it looks like it's impending doom for Biff, let's just say he's shocked as to what has just occurred. Now, it will be the McFlys that will quietly call out to Biff to lead him to somewhere safe, but as for the one who shot down that Decepticon, it's gonna be none other than Doc Brown, who just used his new toy, the Alpha Wave Ionic Nullifier. Now that these four have a moment to breathe, their next move will be to try and contact the Autobots, even though it's believed that they have been extinguished. But Doc has been able to pick up a signal and has a plan to get a message to them. Now, the bad news is they have to make a trek to get to this communication tower. However, the good news is they get to use these really awesome hover sleds to get there. These four humans will have to work against the clock because word has gotten out that Starscream is on his way. Now, normally that would not be good news, but Doc tries to look at the positive, that if they can eliminate Megatron's top henchman, the balance of power will swing in their favor. Now, we should have figured, just like the Decepticons, that these four, primarily because of Biff, will have a hard time working together, which has greatly shortened their window of opportunity to get the signal out. And with impending doom staring them down, Doc's best friend, Einstein, will show off his brilliance and create a diversion. Now, just as the signal is launched, something goes horribly wrong. And of course, it will be Biff that's gonna show his true colors, that no matter what timeline they're in, Biff can never be trusted. Now, even though Biff has just pulled a screw job, the signal that Doc was able to transmit did work, and the Autobots are now on their way. Now, the Autobots will have several obstacles to contend with, one of them being an impatient Marty McFly, but also Starscream has arrived and Biff is sporting a new look as well. Now, the Doc will try and reason with Biff, but let's be honest, if Biff couldn't be reasoned with before, no way he's being reasoned with while sporting his new exosuit. As for the Autobots' game plan of attack, Bumblebee and Gigawatt want to take the silent and stealthy approach as they are outnumbered. But Marty decides to take a different approach, and for good reason, as Biff was seconds away from eliminating Doc and his parents. Fed up with the failures around him, Starscream decides it's time to take matters into his own hands, but the Autobots have crashed the party just in time. While Doc is curious as to how the DeLorean is now an Autobot, that story will have to wait for a later time because Biff now has them in his sights. But once again, coming to the rescue will be Einstein that will help turn the tide and send Biff where he belongs. Now, as for Marty and crew, they appear to have momentum on their side, at least temporarily. That is until Starscream continues to be a pest and puts a halt to Marty's fun. With Marty down, Rodimus will have to stand up to Starscream, where he tells him one shall stand and the other will get knocked into next week. Now, after Rodimus handles Starscream, there is a sense of relief, like the weight of the world has been lifted off their shoulders. But this is issue number 3 of 4, so there's still more to come. Now, I was thinking to myself, what else can writer Kevin Scott throw out to us? Well, as Doc Brown puts it, looks like we will need to beat the clock once and for all. Now for my final score for issue number 3 of the Transformers Back to the Future comic book crossover. When I was getting to the end of this issue, in my mind, I was thinking I was going to give this issue an 8 out of 10. But with the reveal of the giant transforming clock tower, that gave it 1 extra point. So my final score for issue number 3 is going to be a 9 out of 10. Now just when our heroes are about to rejoice, they've met their biggest match yet. Will Doc Brown be able to muster up 1.21 gigawatts of power to save themselves from the clock tower? Well, we're just gonna have to wait and see, as the series is set to come to its conclusion on May 12th. Alright guys, well that's gonna wrap up this comic book review for the Transformers Back to the Future issue number 3 comic book crossover. Now while I didn't mention the art style here in this review, if you've read the first 2 issues, it's very similar. If you loved it like I did, you're gonna love it once again. Now, did you guys get to read issue number 3? And if you did, what are your thoughts? And I want to ask you guys a question. Do you guys still read physical copies, or do you read your copies digital? Or if you read both, which one do you prefer? I still prefer the physical copies, but that's just my opinion. Alright guys, if you like comic book reviews like this, make sure you stay tuned in here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos.
Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.